You're not looking to be exactly who you were when you were 22 years old, but the reality is you're trying to squeeze a little bit more out of your day, optimize yourself a little bit more. And I've talked about different supplements for people that are over the age of 50 before, but science is always emerging with new and improved ways to look at things. So now I have a revised version of just additional supplements that people over the age of 50 should strongly consider adding to their regime. So let's go ahead and let's dive in. The first one is one that you can find just about anywhere. It's called an essential amino acid. Now, I do not recommend that you take essential amino acids throughout the course of your day, like some people recommend. Why? Because that triggers you with a constant kind of mild insulin response, almost as if you're eating food all the time. But what I would recommend you do is whenever you eat protein, whether it's with a protein shake, or it's with your dinner, or it's with your salad with lunch and you have some chicken on it, you want to have a scoop of essential amino acids. What these essential amino acids do is, because of something in it called leucine, it makes the protein that much more bioavailable. There's very interesting studies that demonstrate that you can have up to 4x the amount of protein synthesis from the protein that you're consuming by enriching that meal with having some EAAs on the side. So you could literally just do a Google search for essential amino acids and you have a scoop of them with your water whenever you're consuming protein. That's the issue, is as we get older, we don't utilize protein as well. So we end up losing muscle. It's a pretty natural response, but our metabolism is largely associated to our muscle. So if we're losing muscle, we're having metabolic slowdown. So what do? We improve our ways of getting more protein synthesis. In this case, EAAs are an exceptionally inexpensive way to get that. Okay, that brings me to my next one, which still somewhat has to do with muscle, but more at the metabolic mitochondrial level. This is called PYRROLOQUINOLINE QUINONE, more commonly known as PQQ. Okay, so our muscle has a bunch of what are called mitochondria in it. And our mitochondria within our muscle are very metabolically active. As we get older, we lose our mitochondrial density, which means the powerhouse, the energy manufacturer in our muscle, we start to lose, which means we lose our metabolism, because a lion's share of our metabolism is within our muscle because of how much mitochondria we have packed into that muscle. So it turns out that PQQ helps stimulate what's called mitochondrial biogenesis, the improving or the formation of new mitochondria, more mitochondrial density. Okay, and it does this via different pathways called PGC1A and sirtuin, but we don't need to go down that rabbit hole. There's really interesting evidence published in the journal Nutritional Biochemistry that found that literally just taking in 0.3 milligrams of PQQ per kilogram of body weight resulted in a significant improvement in mitochondrial function, but also a decrease in interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein, which are inflammatory markers that everyone should be paying attention to, but specifically if you're over the age of 40 or 50. So a very powerful supplement to be adding into the mix that now we're able to talk about here in 2021. The next one that I think is very important and so simple that it's often overlooked is good electrolyte blends. This is so unbelievably important. And as we are starting to learn more about how the human body works, we are less concerned about sodium, unless there is a very specific situation, and more concerned about not getting enough of the proper electrolytes and balance. So getting enough sodium is going to be what allows your nervous system to actually process that action potential and send the signal. And again, it comes right back down to muscle. The more that we can contract our muscle via workout or just everyday life, the more that we suck up glucose within the bloodstream. So think about it like this. You have a bunch of glucose flowing through the bloodstream, and then you have a muscle. And when that muscle contracts, it sucks the glucose in, kind of like a sponge. It's like as it contracts, it's like you're squeezing a sponge, and it pulls glucose out of the bloodstream for this. Okay, it's called GLUT4 transporters, and it's not quite that extreme, but the more that we utilize and contract our muscles, the more that we're able to stabilize and modulate blood sugar. That's just one of the many reasons, right? But also just overall brain function and cognition. The electrolyte that I would recommend is one called Element, because it has a really good ratio, and I like the formulation behind it as far as the biochemists that are involved in creating it. So a good friend of mine named Rob Wolf is one of the co-founders, and he is a very well-known, world-renowned biochemist. It utilizes a very good ratio of sodium, potassium, magnesium, Plus, it's in single serve packets that makes it super, super convenient and easy. And they have some delicious flavors. But if you want to try it, there's a link down below so that you can try it and get a sample pack. And all you have to do is pay shipping. So go ahead and just use that link down below, or go to DRINKLMNT.com, drinkelement.com/Thomas. And you just pay shipping and you can get a free sample of it with 8 trial packs. So that way you can just give it a shot. But I think you'll notice how you feel is significantly different, especially if you're over 50 and you're someone that works out. Because then when you're sweating, you're losing those electrolytes and it becomes an even bigger issue. So I think that that's a very overlooked supplement for people over the age of 50. And a big thank you to Element for the continued support on this channel as well, and being able to offer up this kind of deal out to people that watch my videos. They also have an awesome new flavor, by the way, called watermelon salt. They have all kinds of new flavors, but the watermelon salt is super refreshing and perfect for summer. So use that link down below to check them out. The next supplement that I want to talk about is periodically, and this is operative word, periodically, utilizing exogenous ketones. And I recommend doing that for like 3, 4, 5 days in a row, and then taking like a month off. And the reason that you'd want to do this is to just get a little bit of additional ketones into the brain. Whether you are doing a ketogenic diet or not, utilizing periodic exogenous ketones over the age of 50 could potentially help out with what's called network stability. And I've talked about this in another video, but this is very, very effective for lighting up different parts of the brain that maybe aren't getting as much activity now as you're getting older. So it's something just to consider. And again, as far as dosage is concerned, you really want to sit with probably the recommended dose. No need to go overboard anything. Okay, the next one that I recommend is taking in a good dose of vitamin B9. Vitamin B9 is being demonstrated to now improve our telomere integrity. As we age, one of the things we worry about is our telomeres decreasing and decreasing in size. That is allowing kind of a weird genetic mutation to occur. It's one of the bad things of getting older, right? We end up having these telomeres that decrease, and it makes it so that when our cells replicate, they replicate with potential mutations. And eventually, as the DNA kind of gets more and more wonky as we get older, it doesn't have as much stability. And having an improvement in our telomere integrity and telomere length makes it so that our cells have more stability as they replicate. So if you look at a lot of the hallmarks of healthy aging in general, they're usually looking at telomeres and looking at that piece. And the last two that I want to talk about, one is going to be glutathione. Now, glutathione is our body's inherent built-in antioxidant. It is a very powerful antioxidant. And generally speaking, we want to do what we can to allow our body to naturally produce it as much as possible. So if we give ourselves too much of quote unquote exogenous glutathione, we're going to slow down and kind of hinder our body's natural production potentially. But more than that, we are basically just adding too much of an antioxidant. So we don't want to add too much of an antioxidant, because then our body doesn't have the ability to deal with stressors as well. We want our body to know when to upregulate antioxidants so that it can deal with a stress. But there are occasions where you will get a benefit from utilizing glutathione. For example, if you've been drinking, or for example, if you've had an exceptionally hard external stimulus, an extra amount of stress that you know your body wouldn't be able to necessarily keep up with. A little bit of antioxidant help from glutathione is something to have on hand, right? To have it available. They use it when people have a hangover or anything like that, because not necessarily it helps with the hangover per se, but it helps your body recover a little bit more in a way that maybe you wouldn't be able to otherwise. The next one is kind of in the same category, and I've talked about it in other over 50 videos. That is called NMN, nicotinamide mononucleotide. Now, just because this is at the end of my list doesn't mean that it's the least important. NMN is something that you would want to be taking consistently, because what NMN does is it supports what is called nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. This is very important because NAD provides us with the ability to process energy. Okay, if we don't have NAD, we are dead within seconds. But if we have extra NAD, what ends up happening is that NAD goes through to other areas of our body and activates what are called sirtuins, which are genes that help promote longevity. They help with healing, they help with regeneration. Very important thing. So it's not like you take this kind of supplement and you feel it immediately. It's more of a longer term thing that you look at for just overall vitality. It's something that I take as a man in my 30s, but I know that people that are in their 60s also like to take it because they know that it's very good when it comes down to that NAD support. So it's called nicotinamide mononucleotide. There are a few different brands. I usually recommend Verso. So then just to recap, essential amino acids with your meals. Okay, PQQ, taken at least 0.3 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. Okay, electrolytes, do not forget them. Use the element ones down below because they're probably the only ones I really recommend these days. Okay, then occasional exogenous ketones for a few days out of the month. That is it. Okay, no more than that. Okay, then good high dose of folic acid. Remember, it's a B vitamin. You can't really overdose on it because your body's going to urinate it out because it's very, very water soluble. Then good amounts of glutathione used very periodically. Okay, and then lastly, nicotinamide mononucleotide. So as always, keep it locked in here on my channel, and I will see you tomorrow.